let's all find your seats.
I don't think they do.
Where the hell is YouTube?
Glad to see we have a good crowd here on a cool winter's morning. And looks like we have even more people than we normally get on Saturday. So I think Thursdays is going to be a good day for us. And for those people who can't be here, we do have on our website, we always post a video of the meeting on YouTube. The link is on our website, and you can always go in there and either watch or rewatch all of these presentations. So welcome to 2020, our first meeting of the year. And what we are going to be doing today, first we'll go over our financial report, talk a little bit about membership, computer club matters. We'll talk about some of the classes we offer, some community matters, and then we will go on to our special Microsoft presentation today. Okay, looking at the at our financial report, not much change since last month. We do have a total of donations to the Grafton Food Pantry for $1,444. And other than that, things are pretty much the same. Our membership currently is at 1,635 members as of January 6th, and I think we picked up even a few more since then. So we're continuing to grow upward. And certainly everybody in this room knows that we're now meeting on the second Thursday of the month, of each month. So our next meeting is going to be on Thursday, February 13th, and following that it'll be on the second Thursday of every month. So it'll be Thursday, March 12th after that, and so on. And as usual, it'll be 8:30 for free coffee and donuts, and 9 o'clock is the meeting start. So we want to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and welcome to new decade, 2020. And a note, first of all, about our computer lab. Our computer lab is open on Mondays and Thursdays from 9 to noon, and Tuesday evenings from 5:30 to 8:30. On the days that we meet here, so it'll be the second Thursday of each month, the lab will be closed, so we can be here with our monthly presentation. And when you come into the lab with laptops or desktops or problems or whatever, you should always have your passwords. Remember to bring your passwords with you, so we don't have to send you home to look for your passwords, and we can help you more expediently that way. Always check our newsletters that we send out and emails for upcoming schedules, announcements, classes, and so on. We also have two subgroups. We have a photography group that right now is on winter recess, and they'll meeting again on April 1st. That's not an April Fool's joke. April 1st is a Wednesday, so the group will meet on Wednesday the 1st. And the Apple group meets twice a month on the second and fourth Tuesday at 9 o'clock in our lab. We have an ongoing schedule of various classes that we offer. On the screen right now is the January classes. The first two of them you've already missed. But certainly you can take part in many of the others. And I'll introduce Ralph, who'll talk about our classes.
Thanks, John. Well, not everybody missed the first two classes. I was at the second class and I think there was 10 people there. So Dave sends out the reminders usually on Saturday of what's the upcoming, actually the remainder of classes during the month. So David, you're going to be doing that later today, right? And you'll see the rest of these classes, other than the first two, will be taken out. We got, I think it's 21 classes set up for the first quarter, which is pretty good. Various subjects. You notice we're pretty much dealing with phones quite a bit. Everybody has a phone, I'm sure. There might be one or two people still with a flip phone, but I'm working on a class on a flip phone. So anybody wants to teach it, let me know. Yeah, it'll be a short one. Yeah, just open and push the button. That's about it. Not much to it. Also, for February, we don't meet, what do you say, Shelley, the 11th or 12th, I think it is, the 13th. There's going to be two classes before the meeting, the Thursday meeting. One will be on Android phones, the other on iPhones. So you'll be watching for that because you'll get that on the newsletter. They'll come out monthly. If anybody's interested in being an instructor, it's really not hard. I mean, I can assure you it's not hard. I've even done it. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. So if you got something that you feel like you'd like to share with your fellow computerites, I guess I'll say, let me know. And we're trying to come up with really some new classes. There's so many new things coming out on electronics now that if you maybe have got a new device and it really works good and you're excited about telling everybody about it, we'll try to run a class on it. If we get 6, 7, 8 people out of 1,800, that's not bad. That's a start. But anyway, another thing, Shelley mentioned about the YouTube videos that we do every meeting, monthly meeting. You can just take and punch in YouTube or put YouTube in on your search bar and type in Sun City Huntley Computer Club, and immediately you're going to get 5 years of meetings. So it's pretty easy. If you don't know how to get into our website, you can just go to YouTube if you want to see one of the meetings from as far as back as 2014. Just to do it on YouTube, and it works the same as going through our website. So still looking forward to more people coming to the classes. Pay attention and mark them down. I know we see that, and a lot of times we don't write it down and we miss a class, but try to come. And if you're interested in teaching, once again, we need more instructors. Thank you.
And yeah, if you come out to one of our classes, you'll learn so much. You're going to come back the next week and you'll be wanting to teach it. Okay, talking about a few things that are going on in the Sun City community. The annual board meeting is on Wednesday, January 22nd at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's right here. And I guess they want to get a good attendance. We have to have a quorum. I'm sure that there'll be a good attendance for that. Holiday decorations. The weather has been helpful, but we're supposed to have all of that stuff down by January 15th. And if you have any live trees, they're supposed to be put out with your garbage disposal at the edge of the driveway. There are 2 upcoming concerts this month. New Colony 6, and that's not a tribute concert, that's the actual New Colony 6 band from their local Chicago band. And that'll be Monday, January 27th at 7 o'clock. And actually, I understand if you come early, they're going to be taking pictures at 6 o'clock. So you can get yourself into a photo with the New Colony 6. And then on Thursday, January 30th, we do have an Elvis tribute concert. Can't bring Elvis back, but we can bring a tribute concert to you. And the cam desk looks like it's just about done. So that's supposed to be completed by January 10th. So hopefully you won't have to go to the fitness center to buy your tickets and things. Okay, and now we're ready to introduce, we have two young ladies from the Woodfield Microsoft store, Emily Nye, who's a manager there, and Natalie Green, who's a service advisor at the store. And they're gonna give us a little bit of an update on, talk about the latest Windows 10 update, and also about the Edge browser. So let's give a good Sun City welcome to Emily and
Hi, how's everybody? My name's Emily, this is Natalie.
Hi, how are you guys doing? Thank you so much for having us
Yes,
today.
thank you. I'm gonna start with a poll, so raise your hand if the following applies to you. You use Internet Explorer as your primary browser. Okay. You use Windows 7 as your primary operating system. Okay, kind of, okay. You use Google as your primary browser, Google Chrome. Okay, good chunk of you. You use Windows 10 as your primary operating system. Okay. You use Edge as your primary browser. Okay, a few more than Internet Explorer. All right, so mostly Chrome users. You have a smartphone. Beautiful. You use Google Chrome on your smartphone. You use Edge on your smartphone. Oh, I've got a couple. I didn't expect. You use Safari on your smartphone because you have an Apple. Okay, cool. Good to know. So now I just wanted to get a general sense of who the audience was and what you're using. So we're going to talk about Windows Edge, and I'll kind of try to tie it back to Internet Explorer and Google Chrome because I use both of those two. Edge is my primary browser because honestly that's what I use at work, and it's just easier to tie everything, make it all the same. But I have an iPhone also, and I use Google Chrome on my iPhone. I use Safari on my iPhone, so it's okay to use a little bit of everything. All right, so Edge. Well, first of all, I'm a Microsoft Store manager, and I've been working in technology sales since 2008. I have a background in technical communication. That was my major at Iowa State University, because I'm from Iowa. And then Natalie has been a service advisor at the Woodfield store since it grand opened in 2013. So she's been answering all of your folks' questions since 2013 at that store. So if you've been into the store, you've probably met with her on more than one occasion. Okay, so this is your home page. Contrast is a little different, so sorry about that. Basically, Bing is going to be your primary search engine when you're using Edge. So when you open it up, instead of having like a Google logo, you'll have a Bing logo. When it moves over to Chromium, so that's going to be the new one, which I don't have a screenshot on here of, it'll say Microsoft. So there will be a Bing search option, and then you can also do a focus view, which will just say Microsoft. It'll look kind of like the Google screen page or homepage, where it's just kind of white and really focused in, or you can have some lovely background images. You'll have your back and forward buttons on the far left. You'll have your refresh button, your address bar. I mean, everything's pretty much the same. Your favorites. So if you were using favorites in Internet Explorer, you can bring those over into Edge. You'll have this notes option, which we've been looking at Chromium. That may be going away, but the full version isn't out yet for another week. And then you also have your share option here. On the far right, pay attention to the far right where you'll see the three little dots. That's where you're going to get into your settings and make adjustments. So when you type anything into your address bar, it'll show you your answer and you'll see other options so you can search for additional things. Cortana does not appear to be in the new Chromium browser. Does anyone use an assistant right now, a digital assistant? You raise your hand if you use a digital assistant. So that would be like a Siri or Cortana or Google Home. So no one here was probably using Cortana to begin with, so you won't miss it. Maybe so basic search, it's going to be the same kind of thing. The changes that are going to be in the Chromium browser are going to be in the back end of the search, so it is going to be faster on the new version. Okay, so now we're going to get into some cool stuff, and I don't know I'm gonna step out front so I can see what you guys can see. The contrast is a lot different on this screen, so I don't think you can actually see the before and after. So I'm going to describe what you can see, what you should be seeing. So,
walk around, that's all I
Okay.
Mike.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I won't use that right now. That's okay. Thank you. On the before page, basically there's something called reading view. That is going to stick around on Edge and on the new Chromium Edge, and I really like reading view. So the reason I like this is when you open up any browser, it doesn't matter which one you're using, you're going to see a lot of ads. And it can be hard to navigate around those ads because they look like they're articles or they look like they're pictures or part of what you're supposed to be seeing, and they are certainly not part of what you're supposed to be seeing just to read an article online. So Microsoft introduced the reading view in Edge. Has anyone here used the reading view before? Yeah, a handful. Okay. The reading view is really nice because when you click that little button, the before is like you see these images and stuff. The after is just text. So it's not, the contrast is doing something up here, but it's just text. So you won't see any of those ads, you won't see any of those images, you'll just see text. So it makes it really easy to see. And then you can also up the size of the text, so you can make it larger or smaller depending on how well you can see what's on your screen, or the size of your screen. So if you're on your phone, you can adjust that size up a little bit if you need to. And that's just in this reading style. So you can change it to default, and you can change your font size. The other really nice thing about reading view is that you can make a reading list, so you can go back to articles, you can set those aside and come back later. So if you want to be able to view those offline at a later date, you can. I'm going to skip forward here just to see something. Okay. So when you're in, so we go back here, if you're in that after view, so if you're in that just text view, there's also another little button that's going to be called read aloud. Has anyone seen that button before? Over here. Okay. So if you need to see it, you can go to the computer lab and they can show you where it is. But basically, it's a little button that you can click, and it will read that text to you. So me, I like to multitask. I just finished a degree at Northeastern, and I had a lot of stuff to do all the time. So sometimes if I had to read a long article or read some documents and stuff to go through to put papers and things together, I'd be reading one thing while I'd be doing something else or while I'd be writing. And so I'd have it read it aloud to me, and it just read that article for me. So I didn't have the eye strain and anything. It just read whatever was on a live web page straight to me. It's a nice feature if you want to go through the news, you want to have like a recap of news, you can just have it read it to you. So you'll just click that read aloud button. Here again, you can add anything to your reading list, and then you can again have it read to you. That little book where it looks like a little book to the left of the star, I don't know if you can see that on the last screen, that's your reading view icon. So if you're looking for that icon, that's the one you're going to pick. Okay, web notes. Has anyone used web notes before? Over here. Is anyone familiar with web notes? Maybe you haven't used it, but you were familiar with what it could do. Okay. So web notes is a feature that is going to be available on just PDFs in your Edge browser. But web notes, essentially, you can write over the top of a live web page on the current version of Edge. So if you go into that reading view, let's say there's an article you're really interested in or you want to share out, you can then take notes. You can click the little icon here. There's a little, try to see where it's best seen. So there's that little box with the V, no, over to the right. But either way, you can type notes in if you don't have a pen, or you can write with your finger over the top of a live web page, and then you can share that information out with other people. So if you want to email it or send it that way.
You have to have a touch screen, right?
You do not have to have a touch screen. So that's the thing. With the inking, you can do it with a mouse. So that's right here. You can actually write with a mouse. Or there's the add comment. So that's what I was looking for. When you add a comment, you can just type it in. So you don't have to have inking mode. You can actually just type your information in right there. If you want to erase in inking, you're going to use the clear all, so there's just a standard eraser. This toolbar opens up at the top of your browser. So when you're in the browser, and I'll go back, here's probably the best place to see it, it's going to open up in the top, and that's where you'll navigate through all of the inking options. If you want to share that out, there's just going to be on the far right-hand side, there'll be the little share icon. And then if you want to exit out, so you're like, how did I get into this mode? I don't want to do this anymore. You'll hit the exit button on the far right. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Okay. So who's ever been, so in my circle, we call it a rabbit hole. And it basically means that you're reading something and then you want to know more about that thing, and then that leads you to another thing, and you kind of go down this rabbit hole of information. You can do that really easy with Edge. So if you see something in Edge and you're like, I want to learn more about that thing, whatever it is, you just highlight it, right click, and then you can search the web for that thing. So with the current version of Edge, you would use Cortana, so you can click the Ask Cortana when you right click. In the new Chromium browser, it looks like they've removed Cortana, as I said. So when you right click, it just says search for this thing. So it's really just basic, search the web for this thing. So you can just right click, select search, and then it'll pull up a separate search for whatever that thing is that you want to narrow in on. Okay, this is where I have a video. So this is just going to talk really briefly about Microsoft accounts. I don't know if you have to switch audio over though. It's okay.
Music, movies, apps, and more, all from Microsoft. It's easy to get started. Sign into your Microsoft account, opt into Microsoft Rewards, and start earning points. There are no cards to carry or numbers to remember. Just stay signed into your Microsoft account, and you're good to go. It's a breeze to earn points. Just search with Bing, shop with the Windows and Microsoft stores, and browse the web with Microsoft Edge. We'll keep track of your points. All you have to do is watch them grow. Finally, the free stuff. Redeem your points for Xbox or Windows gift cards and pick from thousands of games, movies, TV shows, music, and apps. Or use your points to get Microsoft Store discounts, Skype credits, Xbox Live subscriptions, and more. Do what you already do. Earn points, get what you want. It's as simple as that. Microsoft Rewards.
Okay. Go back really quick here.
Introducing Microsoft Rewards, where the things you already do every day can earn
How many
free
used
games, music,
points?
movies, apps.
Has anyone used Microsoft Rewards before? Did anyone know that Microsoft paid you to use their browser?
Start earning. Introducing
So Microsoft will pay you to use their browser. That is something that Chrome doesn't do, and you don't get in Internet Explorer. So when you use Edge on your mobile device and on your desktop or PC, or even even an Apple device, you get points every time you do a search. So what that means is every time you do a search, you get 2 points, and then those points can be used to make purchases. So if any of you use Hulu, for example, like a streaming service, that's what I use my points on. You can get Microsoft gift cards, so you can actually buy hardware or software through our website. But every search counts. So, and they will let you use your searches from your mobile device and your searches from your PC device. Like you get up to 15 searches per day that count or something like that. So you can really rack up points if you just do some quick searches every day. And you can rack up some rewards. How many in here have a Microsoft account? Okay, I would have expected to see more.
Most do, but they don't know.
They don't know it. Okay, so if you are using Windows 10, when you set up your computer, so I'm just going to kind of go into this really quick. When you're using Windows 10, you had 2 options when you set up your computer, or when whomever set up your computer had 2 options. One would be a local account, and one would be a Microsoft account. The local account means that everything is just saved on your computer. It doesn't exist anywhere else. If you set it up as a Microsoft account, that means that you have the option to back things up to the cloud, to save those settings that will be tied to that account. And then if you set up a new computer, those settings will travel with you. So it's the same thing like if you're using the Edge browser and you change over to a different computer, a lot of people want their favorites or some of their settings to come with them. That's all tied into a Microsoft account. So for those of you who have smartphones, which is a majority of the audience, if you have a Google or an Android smartphone, that means you have a Google account, okay? If you have an Apple smartphone, that means that you have an Apple account or an iCloud account. So this is kind of our version, the Microsoft account is our version of those types of accounts. When you're using one of our devices, we don't require it, but we definitely recommend it. With that Microsoft account, you, again, tie over any of your settings. You also have access to something called OneDrive. OneDrive is really nice, and I'm just going to talk about apps that are available on your mobile devices briefly because they also tie into the Microsoft account. OneDrive is really nice because it can back up all of your data. And again, you know, what we used to have to do is if you needed your data backed up, you're going to have to do a data transfer, and that was going to cost you money or time or whatever that looked like, or you'd have to go to these guys in the lab and take care of it. OneDrive allows you to back up all of your data. There's actually an automatic feature now where you can automatically back up your data, so you don't even have to think about it. And OneDrive is available as an app on your Apple or your Android smartphone, and that can back up all of your pictures automatically as well. And that would be my primary use is for pictures, but I have it set up on my phone, and then you don't have to plug in your phone to your computer anymore. You don't have to send things via email so that you can open them up on your computer anymore. OneDrive is actually integrated right into your File Explorer. So it's just another drive on your computer, and that's again one of the benefits of the Microsoft account. So not only are we paying you for this, but we're also providing a whole bunch of features that would encourage you to use a Microsoft account. So if you have an Outlook email at outlook.com, if you have an at hotmail.com, if you have an at live.com, msn.com email address, you already have a Microsoft account by default because those are all owned by Microsoft. If you want to make an outlook.com, that would create a Microsoft account. You could have also assigned like a Gmail or a Comcast or something like that to define it as your Microsoft account. So that's something that we can always help you with at the Microsoft Store too. When you're making those inkings, when you're doing those clips and things, that's saving it to your Microsoft account also. So to use that feature, you would want to have a Microsoft account so you could save those, any of that inking or web notes would be saved to that Microsoft account also. So, questions on any of that?
So when will the new,
Yeah.
when will the new Microsoft version of the browser?
The browser is set to release on January 15th currently.
An update?
And that will, and this is going to be, yeah, Natalie's going to field the specific update questions on that. Were there questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I currently use Edge as my browser,
Yes.
and Google is my search engine. When
Yes.
when the browser updates, will I be able to use Google?
That is a really great point. So you can set your home page to anything you want, which is probably what
So
you've done.
that won't change with this update.
That won't change. You can still set whatever you want as your home page. So Google is a search engine, and Google, you don't have to use Chrome to use Google. You don't have to use Edge to use Bing, actually. You can just set those as your default home
I use
pages.
Comcast as my home page,
Yep.
Google is my search engine,
Yep.
and Edge is my browser.
Yeah.
So, okay.
You've got layers. Yeah, that shouldn't change.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay. Natalie's going to come up and talk about some of the differences, some of the technical aspects, differences for the new update for the Chromium browser, and then cover some of the new Windows updates. So we have a new Windows update that's been rolling out since November. It's going to kind of continue to roll slowly out to people's devices. It's our 1909 feature update. Now this specific update is not as full-featured, user-facing as a lot of our updates have in the past, so you won't see a lot of changes from this one, but there are a couple key changes that we want to address. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no, because I took some notes down here. Hi, guys. How are y'all doing? Once again, thank you for having us. And what an exciting topic to talk about, computing. So it's really cool to see how many people who support Microsoft and Windows, and you guys you just want to learn more and how to use it. So thank you for just engaging and being here. So our Windows 10, how many of you guys use Windows 7? All right. So you guys are aware that as of January 14th, we are going to be discontinuing the support for Windows 7. So if you have not made the transition to Windows 10, I highly recommend it. This is definitely by far the best operating system that Microsoft has had. And I just say that because I've watched it come out. So I've been there from when it started, and the different things that Microsoft has introduced with Windows and to where it is now. And that happens from like insight from people using our product and giving us feedback on the product to making the product better and just for you to get the best experience possible on it. So we update Windows on a pretty regular basis, but it's not just an update. It's a lot of times we get the feedback from the users and we implement those changes, part of the operating system. So our most recent update will be the Windows 10 update, 1909. And just some brief changes, like Emily mentioned, there weren't a lot of things that actually changed within it that are going to be noticeable differences, but there are a few. So in File Explorer, you now use a Windows Search to integrate OneDrive, OneDrive content, which traditionally results in a search page. And then Microsoft is adding a new Manage Notification button to top off to the top of Action Center, and it links to the notification settings page. You can now also turn off notifications for particular apps directly from the Action Center of the notification tells. So everybody hates the the pop-ups that show up, when you're on the computer and when you're trying to do something and you're trying to just get it off the screen. You have the ability to manage that and control that. That's just a setting. So a lot of times, you might think something is wrong with the computer, but it might just be a simple setting that you can turn on and off. And a lot of times, it could be just a notification that you have turned on that you just don't want to see anymore. Microsoft has also updated the calendar flyout on the taskbar to allow you to quickly create events straight from taskbar to create a calendar event. You have to click on the date and time icon. So on your taskbar, on the very bottom of the screen, I couldn't show you here. So on the very bottom of your screen, there's the little bar where normally your when you have an open program, or when you want to pin something specific, like you typically find like a Word, if you have Word on your computer, you have it pinned to the bottom of your computer. So in the very far right corner of that taskbar, there's the date and time. So when you click on the date and time, actually a calendar pops up, and you have access to your calendar. So from there, you can actually click on that and you can add a task or a calendar event in the new Windows. That has not always been there. And so it's something that allows you, like with just giving you this information, it cuts down the time that it'll take for you to go and find your calendar to add an event to it. You can just click on it and add the task. So the whole idea behind Windows 10 is productivity. So to get the most amount of things done in the fastest amount of time. And so that's how you want to interpret the Windows operating system, is we want to make it as easy as possible for you, but it does take a little bit of a knowledge curve to get there. But the whole idea is to get as much stuff done in the shortest amount of time. And be as productive as you possibly can. So Microsoft is updating the lock screen with a new change that should allow third-party digital assistants to voice activate above the lock screen. So if you use something other than Cortana, and it's and it's connected to so if you what's the other Google Home?
Google Home, Siri.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if Apple will let Siri be over here.
But Alexa. Google.
Yeah, Alexa for sure. And a Google Home, if you have those connected, so if you have a smart home or you connect it to a lot of smart devices and you use any digital assistants, you will be able to use those from your lock screen. So basically, you're not logged into your computer, but you can log in using those assistants. So that's pretty cool. But that's kind of the brief overview for the 1909 update. And as far as the, well, first thing, does anyone have any questions regarding just Windows 10 and just kind of these things that I spoke about? I am going to talk about the Chromium browser, but if there's any questions regarding this, I'm definitely happy to answer any. Yes, ma'am.
I don't understand the second paragraph where it talks about notification toast.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what a notification toast is.
It's just a term that Microsoft uses on the back end, but it's part of their support.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything
It's
that.
just the notification bar on the right hand side. It's like a name for that. Oh, I guess I can't even show you what it is. It's just a note. So on the right hand side, when you have your action center, that's just one of the names that they use for that.
Okay.
It's like a back end name.
Are there any other questions?
I have one.
Yeah, over here.
What are the differences between the different versions of Windows 10, like Pro and Home?
So the question is, what are the differences between the different versions, so Home and Pro?
Yeah, so Windows 10 Home, it's it's your basic version of Windows. You're using it for home use. So you can do everything in the operating system except for with Windows 10 Pro, you have the ability to connect to a domain. So if you're part of a network, so a lot of companies nowadays, so it's more geared towards business. First thing, I'll say that. A lot of companies nowadays, you need to connect to a server, or some people have in-home servers and they want to connect to that. And Windows 10 Pro allows you to connect and domain join using that. And it also gives you remote desktop. So if you needed to remote into a computer or someone to remote into your computer, it gives you back and forth. A lot of times someone can remote into your computer, but you can't remote out without Windows 10 Pro. And then another thing is it gives you BitLocker capability, which is encryption. So basically, if anything, if you have sensitive data or if you just have data, period, you can lock your drive. So in the event someone, like say you're at the airport and you lose your computer, or say, something happens and you lost your computer and someone else picks it up. If it gets into the wrong hands, that's a lot of information. A lot of our lives are in our computer. So that's a lot of information that someone has access to. So it does give you the ability to encrypt your data on it, where it gives you a passcode, like it's a 16-digit number that you keep safely away, and that will unlock your drive. And that is part of the Windows 10 Professional, which Home doesn't have that.
Natalie, it takes us a long time to remember 16 digits.
You can save it to a flash drive, so it'll remember it for you.
Was there another question back there?
Yeah, there's someone next to.
Yeah, I had one over here. What is, if anything, that Windows is going to do to solve the problem of, we have a lot of people in Sun City that may still use CDs for their slideshows. And that has been a sore subject with Windows, that they did not provide a means of making slideshows no more on CDs. Now, we would have paid $5 or something to do it, but now you gotta pay $35 to get the third-party program, or $40, and that doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll be super honest, I do agree with you. But then when we look at things on a grander scale, right? We have more digital content. Sorry, I apologize. I see you. We have digital content. And so the amount of digital content that we're streaming or able to download versus the amount of people who are looking for CDs and that capability it's not very common. To be very honest, the way that we stream and do things has completely changed. Sooner or later, I honestly don't even know how to buy an album anymore because music has changed. So all of these things have kind of gone away to where we used to do things, and so it's just about making a transition and learning. Sorry, I apologize. and just learning the new wave of what's going on because it's always going to change, and that stuff has been there for a while. But technology changes, and there are some free programs though. There.
Still use VLC.
Yeah, VLC is the one that I do recommend. It gets the job done. It's not the answer, but it does get the job done.
You had that so well done in 7 with Windows
Media.
CD.
Yeah.
It worked so slick. It was very, very informative, and it was very easy to use. It was a shame that they did not offer that. So if you get somebody to talk to, tell them,
I was part of the rollout for Windows 8 and Windows 10, and so the music that I heard for making that transition, it was definitely a difficult process.
I think they would have figured out a fix for it because it would have been so simple to say, well, for $10 or up $10, I think everybody would have paid it to get the Kodak to write the CDs. And it would have solved the problem of not having to pay for everybody who didn't use it.
Well, it's kind of like how we're discontinuing Windows 7, right? It's the continued support.
Yeah.
So if you pay $10 extra for it, they have to continue to support the product, which that costs money.
On that same question, Windows 7, you say you're no longer going to support Windows 7. What exactly does that mean?
Microsoft will no longer release security patches for it. So, in other words, if you don't have a third-party a third-party antivirus or support there, and it's not specifically for a retired operating system, don't connect to the internet, or you will be vulnerable. And that's when, you will be vulnerable, and that you get viruses. Possibly you're open for viruses and scams and just different things that you just probably don't want to be a part of. You won't be nearly as secure if you are on a supported browser.
And if you need that type of service, you can bring your computer into the lab and we can assist you in providing that type of security.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that it's not gonna work anymore. You can still use your computer. You can still even go online. It just means that you're going to have less security than you did the day before, going forward with Windows 7.
I have a Windows 7 and a Windows 10.
Wait a second,
but
Mike.
I'm coming.
When I use, I have some games in Windows 7 that I can't get in Windows 10. Is there any way to solve that problem?
Do you connect to the internet to get to those games?
Originally, it's
Okay. So you're still dealing with the same kind of issue. I definitely recommend some type of third-party security if you're going to be connecting to the internet because you are vulnerable in that sense.
Well, you can't get it in Windows 10, you can't get the same games.
Yeah, and I do understand that. But if you, so that means you want to continue to use Windows 7, correct?
Both, yeah.
Yeah, so I would say get third-party security for the Windows 7 machine, or just verify that you do have to connect to the internet or not. Because if you don't have to connect to the internet on that device, you don't have anything to worry about.
It's in there already, isn't it? I mean, the games are there. Does that mean they connect to the internet?
It depends on the game. Well, I mean, I'm sure you can probably take it to the computer lab and they could tell you if you are connecting to the internet, and then if not, they'd recommend you a third party security for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's not just games. Everybody should be aware. There are certain pieces of software that'll run on 7 that will not run on 10, and it's not a question of drivers or anything else. They simply will not run on 10, so you have to find an alternate to that particular piece of software to carry out that function.
Absolutely, that is definitely correct.
You talk about putting third-party security on Windows 7. That'll solve part of the problem. That's not a total solution, and people might have a false sense of security. There are still security issues in Windows itself, and that's not going to fix those. And there's security issues if you have an older version of Microsoft Office. So you're better off keeping up to date with Windows, Office, and all your software.
Absolutely. I like you a lot. Because that is the truth though. How do you guys feel about updates? You guys feel good about updates? Great, because I need everybody to love updates because updates are your friend. That's what I always tell everyone, updates are your friend. They're the annoying friend, but when they come over, it's all good. And so that's what I like. Staying up to date is going to make sure that you are the most secure. So he hit it like on the nail. When you do Windows updates, it updates the security patches. So that happens through your Office updates. That happens through there, and so it keeps you current, and it allows Microsoft to be able to catch anything that is not working normally. And so when you guys are updated, we get to keep you updated and keep you the most secure. So that's the goal. So yeah, thank you for that. Are there any other questions?
Are there plans for a Windows 11 in the future? Or is this the end of the road for Windows?
I doubt it. I doubt that this is the end of the road. We've had some great successes, and so I don't think this is the end of the road. But so Windows 10 came out in 2015. Is it 15? Yeah.
Alexander 15.
Yeah, 2015. So since then, we started at 1507. So fun fact, with Windows, there is Windows 10, but there's typically a 4-digit number that follows it, and that tells you the build of Windows. So like this one is 1909. Typically, the first 2 numbers is the year that update came out. So that just, every year, 2 feature updates come out a year is kind of what the trend has been. And so we will continue to update it, I guess, till we run out of numbers, or they decide that they want to do something fancy there. All right.
Questions?
Yeah, over here.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Wait till the microphone.
Just a second.
They're coming. Wait, I'll get a water.
Okay, here you go.
when is Windows 10 gonna be replaced? How much longer do we have on it? And how long are the next two updates gonna take
Okay, so Windows 10,
to install?
okay, cool. So the first question, you might have to repeat the second one for me in a second, but the first question, like it's kind of going back to the last question. I don't know when it's going to be replaced because we've just been building on it. We've been making it better. So we really don't have an end date for it. But I can tell you that Windows 7 came out in 2002. Maybe I can jump and check real quick. Yeah, I think Windows 7 came out in 2002, and so you got a while. we got a while because we're still operating in Windows 10. So I don't think.
It's gonna be at least another 13 years
Yeah.
before we say, okay, we gotta pull the plug. So I think we have some time.
Yeah.
But when this one was announced, it was kind of announced as Windows 10 is Windows 10, and that is Windows going forward. So.
No, it came out in 2009. I'm sorry. So about a little over 10 years. So I think we're fine.
And the second part of that question was how long does the download take to
It depends on hardware. So it depends on the actual hardware of the computer. So I've seen Windows the 1909 installed on the computer in 35 minutes. I've seen it installed on the computer for 2 hours. It really depends on how the RAM, the processor. A lot of times that does come into play when it comes to the download speeds.
So I may be the only one who doesn't know this, but on these updates, do they happen automatically? Because I had a situation where blue screen, the Geek Squad guy said, oh, one update got stuck in the middle of another update. Am I doing the update or does it happen automatically?
When you get a new device and you open the box and you set it up, if this is just because I see a lot of new devices and the issues that happen over time with from a new device versus a customer coming in with an issue. Security updates will happen automatically. So those happen all the time. But if you don't go in and initiate your original updates and install the original updates until the computer is fully updated, there's a strong possibility that you will not be fully updated, and so it causes a conflict with updates trying to happen, and that's kind of the most common issue that I see when there becomes a problem is there's a conflict in updates trying to happen because it probably was never fully updated from the beginning.
And Natalie, it also takes a shutdown and startup to finalize that, correct?
Yes. So updates will download, once you're all the way updated, and now your computers are on a full automatic update. So that means the computer, meaning Windows, is downloading your updates while you're working on the computer. And in order for those updates to take place, you do have to restart the computer. It will notify you. A lot of you probably seen that message before. Your computer says, even when you go to shut down, it'll say either update and shut down or update and restart. So that gives you that clarity there of when to actually restart your computer. That means an update has already downloaded and it needs to take place.
Could you address, I hope I worded this question correctly, but could you address the processor that you may need to handle the update? At what point in time, I have a pretty old computer and I feel that probably my processor is getting too old to actually handle these updates? So if you address that, what do you need?
Yeah, I don't really know offhand, like what processor like what are the processors that are required. But I do know that, yeah, I've seen some pretty basic processors handle the update. So to be clear, Windows 10 is a less invasive operating system than Windows 7. So, so the processor should be able to handle it, but whether the drivers are supported or the software is supported, that's completely different. If it can handle Windows 7, it can handle Windows 10.
And by drivers, she means that we use third-party hardware. So sometimes you might have a piece of equipment in your computer and that manufacturer has stopped supporting that piece of equipment, just like we're not going to support Windows 7, maybe that piece isn't supported anymore. And so your computer can stop working because it doesn't have basically a software to tell the operating system what to do with that piece of hardware. Your computer would stop working. More than likely. So as far as your processor and everything, like she said, it's less resource intensive than Windows 7. So if it was functioning with Windows 7, it's not the updates that are going to be a problem. It just might be getting old and there might be something wrong with your motherboard or your hard drive or something like that too. So there's a way you could bring it in for a diagnostic, and I don't know if the computer club probably does that also, or we can definitely do that at the store also, and those are free at our store too, if you want to bring it in.
Yeah, we are among the unfortunate still using Windows 7. But we've been told that it may be better to purchase a new tower or a new laptop rather than trying to upgrade from 7 to 10. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, so it depends. So if you purchase Windows 10, it's $120, and so if you're willing to make that investment, and you're not really sure what the experience is going to be after that, or if you want to just take the plunge and get a new device where you are pretty sure what that experience on this new device is, because if you're not sure, you can take it back. Yeah, so that's pretty much kind of where I kind of stand there.
Yeah, it kind of goes on whether or not you want to put, if you have an old car, are you going to replace the engine or are you going to get a new car? It kind of comes back to that, like how much money are you willing to put into the older machine to kind of keep it running. But then you also have like the drivers. So in that instance, depending on if someone looked at your computer, it could be a situation where your drivers aren't supported, because there's a way for us to check that. So maybe your drivers aren't supported for your hardware that's in your machine. And so it's not going to be compatible with Windows 10. That is a possibility. And then you can also find Windows 10 laptops for like $200–300. So when you're spending half the cost of that on an operating system and getting a brand new device, sometimes it just makes sense to some people. But if you want to get Windows 10, that is 100% up to you.
I'm one of the people who's being forced to Windows 10, and I do mean forced. So I went out and bought the new machine. Is there an online tutorial? I know there's classes being offered, but I've been trying to get into the library class for a number of months. There's a lot of us, obviously, who want to learn. Can I get it? I can't buy a disc anymore, I guess, but is there an online tutorial?
Yeah, so we have on Microsoft's website, there is an entire page where you can select the topic of like Microsoft products that you want to learn more about. That's
turn it on.
You don't know how to turn it on?
No, I'm not quite that basic, but about that basic.
Okay, well, I mean, we offer training at our store, like one-on-one training. And I highly encourage people to be a part of that. I'm not sure.
And that's by appointment, right?
Yes, that is by appointment. And we can definitely teach you, we can teach you whatever you want to know.
Well, by the prior versions of software, I've been able to get a disc or something that I could sit down and work at my own pace.
So I'm gonna make a couple plugs here really quick. So the first thing is the Tips app. So on your computer, or either it might be still in the Microsoft Store, you might have to search there, but there is a program, an application called Tips, T-I-P-S. In this application, it will sort by icon. So if you see this icon on the screen, it has that icon in the Tips app, and it'll tell you exactly what it will do. It has tutorials, it has videos, text, like little modules and stuff. I mean, it's kind of endless, honestly, this Tips app. I love it, and I recommend it to anyone who has a class with me. I give them this first, and I pin it to their taskbar, and I say, go here for your questions. The second plug is that not only do we have the appointment trainings, but we also offer classes. So they're group classes in the store, and those you can find at our website, microsoft.com/Schaumburg for our store location, or Oakbrook for the Oakbrook store location. But I'm gonna plug our store, because I like our store, so Schaumburg. So you can, what's that? They are free. They are 100% free. They are group classes. We have marketing through AARP currently for some of our Tuesday and Thursday morning classes, but they are open to anyone. So Tuesday and Thursday mornings typically at 9 a.m. and then I'm going to be opening up a little bit of a later series, like around 11 a.m. on Wednesdays is what we did this last quarter before the holidays. But we'll be going back into that, and that's the basics of Windows, the basics of Excel, the basics of just your computer, anything Microsoft related. And then the third thing that I want to plug is, who's familiar, I know I'm way in the back and I can see the back of your head, so I'm sorry. Who's familiar with lynda.com? Okay, so once upon a time there was a thing called lynda.com. It's still around, but it goes by a different name. So LinkedIn, if anyone is familiar with LinkedIn, LinkedIn purchased lynda.com, and then Microsoft purchased LinkedIn. So we now own LinkedIn and we own lynda.com. And lynda.com is now called LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning is, I think, available through the library, and I think Dave said that you guys have it in your computer lab too?
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. So LinkedIn Learning, you can basically search any topic, technology related, even just like coaching and mentoring or being a better manager and those types of things too, so soft skills as well. But you can go in there, search any topic, and then it has professionals giving tutorials. So if you want to learn more about the Chromium browser, 99% sure there's going to be a learning in there. If you want to learn more about your Windows desktop, there's going to be a learning in there. And it sounds like they have access to that, so you can go on in and take a look.
And you can do that at the library, local library as well.
Yes. Yeah, so LinkedIn Learning. I know Natalie uses it a lot because all of the certification prep material is there for Microsoft certifications. There's things that are outside of Microsoft too. So if you are into photography, I saw you guys are having a photography class. If you want to learn more about Adobe Photoshop, you can take a class on LinkedIn Learning as well.
It's honestly my favorite thing. I went to sleep doing a LinkedIn Learning training last night. So
yeah, there's even an app for your phone for LinkedIn Learning, so if you want to watch it all day, you can. Other questions?
now I can talk about Chromium.
Over here. I'm coming with the mic over here.
Just a quick question for someone who's interested in finding your store. Where in Woodfield are you?
Not by the Nordstroms.
Yeah, don't follow our website. So if you know where Red Robin or Panda Express are on the exterior of the mall, so it is entry 2 in parking lot N. So it's going to be between the Nordstrom wing and the JCPenney wing. There's Red Robin and Panda Express there. That's the best entrance. So you'll go in that, you'll take a left, and we're like the second store on the right, or on the left, sorry. Right across from Lush or Mac.
It's also downstairs from the Apple Store.
They moved the Apple Store, so that is a different point of reference now. It became the Alpaca Store, and then it was a Christmas store, I don't know.
It was the adventure park place
Oh,
for a
yeah,
moment.
it was the Cinnaburst. So Cinnamon Toast Crunch did a Cinnaburst experience there. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, so if you guys look on our website or if you call help desk, or look on the mall's website, it'll tell you to go through the Nordstrom's wing. Don't do it.
And it's really far, especially if you're carrying a desktop. Yeah.
For
Yeah,
those
Apple
mem-
misdirected, yes.
For those members that are new to Windows 10, if you are using it and have a specific problem, come on into the computer lab any day when it's open and ask one of the monitors, they can help you.
More questions?
Okay, the first thing we should tell you is that anybody, and tell your friends that didn't come to the meeting, if they have any questions on 10, come into the lab, because that's what the lab is for, answering questions individually, one-on-one.
Well, I know you guys wanted to touch bases about the new chromium edge. Yep. So it's releasing on next Wednesday, January 15th, will be the Microsoft Edge Chromium browser, which it's designed for, it's really designed for business and just being able to get a better search experience with more security. So I'm very excited about the new browser. I use it at work. I actually just installed it on my personal device. I haven't been using it, but I don't use my personal device much either way. I look at a computer all day. So there you will find a new look. I don't have any slides of the new look of the Chromium browser. So you will find it there. But I think the best part of it is it's faster. And then it's also more secure. So the cool thing about the Windows 10 operating system is you get options. So you can choose if you wanted to, Google Chrome on there. You can choose if you wanted Edge. You can choose if you wanted to use Internet Explorer, which I think is really nice because a lot of operating systems or other operating systems don't give you that much flexibility. And so Microsoft definitely allows you to be able to do that. But with that, I know Emily spoke about Bing earlier, and Bing as a search engine and Microsoft basically paying you to use the search engine. So within the new browser, it does have access to the Microsoft search through Bing. With the new updated Chromium browser, and that is cool because it allows you to you can search people. So if you're connected to for me, how I would use it personally, I'm connected to work. I can search someone's name and it'll tell me what department they work in. It'll tell me what floor they're in, what building they're in. I can search an acronym for a company and it'll tell me the what that actually means. So it has a bit of intelligence that is a part of it, which makes it really cool. You do have how many people use in private browsing? Does anybody? Cool. So I like to use in private browsing as much as possible because we live in a world. I don't really use it too much on my computer first thing, but if I'm working on another computer, I typically do try to use it. We live in a world where our data, we want to keep it as close to us as possible because we don't really know what's happening with it. One step or to a security measure, one step in a security measure, we should take those things, especially if you're using a device that is not yours. So in private browsing is something that is available in all web browsers. But the difference with Edge is, first thing, the new one, it's more secure when choosing what information to keep of yours on the browser. So you can think of, we don't know when we search something on the internet, we don't know how much that data is being kept. Or when we go onto a web page, we don't know how much that data is being kept. but they do have some new privacy default protection that I think is really cool. And for me, it would be worth using just the Edge browser in general because it's Microsoft is taking the extra precaution to make sure that there's some type of protection and that you're aware of there being some type of protection for your data. Where I'm not sure if other browsers can say that for sure.